What's up guys, it's Andy here, back again in 7 Days to Die to bring you another mod. Today's mod is one I've been working on pretty much since Alpha 13 dropped. It's a little bit confusing, I've been working on it for a little while, but I've finally figured out how to get rid of the crafting timers. Now, crafting timers, I'm sure some of you are have been wanting to turn them off because you're the kind of player that does those mega builds and you need a lot of materials. But you don't like using the creative menu, you want to play the game legit, but you don't want to have to sit around waiting 10 minutes for a stack of wood frames to craft. So, I found a way to turn them off. There was a couple of little hiccups and workarounds I've had to do to make it work properly, but I've got it sorted, and obviously I'll leave a link in the description so you can use it if you don't want to sit here and listen to me waffle about what I've had to do to get it to work and explain the little intricacies of it. Link in the description if you want to just download it and start playing. I don't blame you. But anyway, the reason why you don't have the option to turn the crafting timers off or speed them up anymore is because of the new skill tree system. So things like armor smithing and tool smithing, that sort of thing, as you level up in them, that slowly, very gradually decreases the amount of time it takes to craft items under the particular skill set. So, because it would screws around with the skill tree system if you're just able to craft a load of stuff really quickly, and kind of messes it up for the fun pimps. But I know you guys, quite a lot of you guys have wanted a way to get rid of them, so I'm bringing it to you. So, basically, if I just craft up a stone axe here, you'll see it crafts instantaneously, and it has a craft time of 0. So, just for a bit of reference, the way the craft timers were calculated in Alpha 13 is by individual items. So in the case of this stone axe, the normal time it would take to craft it is 6 seconds. Now that 6 seconds is made up of the input items. So as you can see, we've got 2 plant fibres, 2 wood and 2 small stones. Each one of these items adds 1 second to the craft time. So we've got 6 items, 1 second each, total of 6 seconds. Pretty simple, but it makes some complications down the line. So what I've had to do is I had to go into the XML files and change the bit of code that denotes that it takes 1 second to these items add 1 second to the craft time. In previous alphas, this was simple to adjust. Every recipe, so the output, would have attached to it in the recipes XML a little string of code that said craft time and had a value attached to it, like 15 for 15 seconds, something like that. And you could go and fiddle with those to your heart's content and change them however you liked. Fortunately, we don't have that option anymore. For some reason, they've decided to base it all on the inputs. So, if you look at the items XML, you'll see a few items have a property, like a property string code called crafting ingredient time, which has a value attached to it. So, an example of this would be the bottle of water. Bottle of water, if you go to the code, in there it'll have this crafting ingredient time value, and I think it's 15 seconds or 20 seconds for a bottle of water. Something like that. So, for all the other items, for most of the other items, this little property string doesn't appear. And that's because the default amount of time that a particular asset adds to an output, like a recipe, is 1 second. So, for example, if you went and looked up wood in the items XML, it wouldn't have this string visible because it just has a default. It uses the default time. You only add the string if you want to deviate away from the default time. So what I've done is I've gone in and added this string to every single item and changed it to 0. So now none of the items have any craft time associated with them. Now, this brings up a couple of issues which I'm going to go through. As you can see, things like the stone axe craft instantaneously, If we click on these iron fragments and scrap them, they scrap immediately. Changes that too. So you're no having to sit around waiting for stuff to scrap before you can craft things. We craft up some arrows, for example. We'll grab 20 of them. Normally an arrow would take 3 seconds, because 1 second for a stone, 1 second for a wood, and 1 second for a feather. Total of 3 seconds. So if we were to do 20, 3 times 20, 60 seconds. So a stack of 20. If we click craft, they won't craft instantaneously like they did in Alpha 12 if you set craft timers off, but they craft incredibly quickly, like one after another. And it does lag very slightly if your PC is not good, like mine. So if it looks slow, it's my PC, not the actual code. It's cracking up. So as you can see, it's gone through that no problem, really quick, no issue there. So 60 seconds worth of arrow crafting done in a blink of an eye, pretty much. So that's all working great. However, just to show you the frames, wood frames as well. If we were to do a stack of 6 wood frames, would take 1 minute. So if we do a stack of 30, that would be 10 minutes worth of waiting for wood frames. Craft them up, as you can see, blast through really quick, no problem at all. So, for the most part, all your basic recipes have got that level of crafting speed. However, there are a few exceptions, and it comes with the blocks XML. Now, every block in the blocks XML has this property, the crafting ingredient time property value, attached to it. And as I said it before, it defaults to 1 second. However, none of the actual blocks have this string visible. And that's because if you add this string and change the value, say you wanted to, I'll use the aloe vera plant as an example, and the aloe cream. So if we wanted to change, say, the craft time on aloe vera plant to 15 seconds, so that it would take 1 minute to craft some aloe cream, it wouldn't work if you added this string of code and changed the value to 15. Don't know why, it just doesn't work for the blocks XML. So, on the flip side, trying to get rid of the 1 second default, we can't do it. So, for things that use blocks, the blocks that it uses, in this case the aloe vera plant, because it's obviously a plant that grows out it's a placeable block that's out in the world, we need 4 of them. So 4 times 1 second is 4 seconds. Don't know why this says 3. This is the Plum Pimp's issue, not mine. If we click craft, it always says like 1 or 2 seconds less. Don't get it. If I click craft, you'll see it will say 4 seconds on it and count down from 4. Just there. So unfortunately, anything that's a block, crafting times can't be removed from. Saving grace of this is very few recipes actually use blocks. Mostly, the way they've sort of shifted it is that most things now use basic resources, so forged iron, scrap iron, wood, plant fibres, rocks. They use these basic resources more than other crafted items. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. Fortunately for the blocks, we can't get rid of the 1 second, but it is only 1 second. So, there's not much you can do about it. Saving grace is that it's only ever 1 second per item. So, it's not like having to wait for some of the more higher timed items. So it's not too bad. It's manageable. Certainly, it's not something you come across readily because there's not many that use blocks. So yeah, that's pretty much the basics of it. However, we do run into some other issues. And it's basically issues with the Campfire and the Forge. Forge is a bit different. Come on to that just a bit. If we head into the Campfire and look at the recipes in here, all these recipes use items. So, we'll use the example of antibiotics. An antibiotic takes a mouldy bread and a potassium nitrate. Now, the craft time on mouldy bread was 60 seconds, and potassium nitrate powder 1 second. So obviously these are now gone in the items XML. So, for example, if you wanted to create another item that used mouldy bread as a resource in the recipe, it would have no seconds attached to it, so it would craft instantly, which is what we wanted. However, this screws up the campfire, because the campfire uses the same string of code, this crafting ingredient time, to generate the crafting time of the output. So what I've had to do in order to grant the time back, because obviously the forge and the campfire were never affected by turning the crafting timers off. You still have to wait for things to cook and melt in the forge and that sort of thing. So obviously we didn't want these timers to go. So what I've had to do is I've had to add a new item. This item I've called charcoal briquettes. So these charcoal briquettes are the only, well, now in this mod anyway, the only item in the items XML that has a crafting ingredient time that isn't 0. Okay, I made it 5 seconds. So 5 seconds per briquette. So yeah, that's where the time now comes from. So I've added the briquettes to every single recipe. If we cook up an antibiotic, we can see it's got the longer craft time attached to it, and we have to wait for it to cook, which is what we want. We should turn that off, want the noise. Yeah. So to get the charcoal briquettes, it's very simple. You have to use them in addition to the fuel you put in the campfire. But what you get them is just to use wood. Obviously, you've got to have it early on in the game. So, charcoal briquettes, you use 1 wood, and it gives you 2 briquettes. Really simple. Craft up some. See, the craft instantly because it's controlled by the wood and not the item itself. And that gives you these briquettes, 5 seconds each for the recipes in the campfire. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just to demonstrate that the time has actually been removed from the potassium nitrate. Obviously this would have contributed 1 second into the campfire, which will dramatically slow down the time it takes to craft the gunpowder. So if we craft a stack of 500, this would take ages to craft normally, because obviously a potassium nitrate is 1 second and a lump of coal is 1 second. So in total we've got 1,000 seconds of crafting time here. As you can see, it does it pretty damn quick. It's not instantaneous like it used to be, like you may be used to, like I said, but this is as quick as it'll go. As you see, it's no time at all, it's a matter of seconds to get well over 10 minutes worth of crafting. So yeah. Now, onto the forge. The forge was a unexpected surprise. I thought I was going to have to fiddle around with this quite a lot to get it to work. Turns out I didn't have to. Basically, as I'm sure you're aware, if you put in something like stones or iron or clay into the input, these values go up. So if I add just 1, and you see we've got 345 stone, if I turn this on and let it burn for a second, it goes up to 350. So it adds, for every 1 you put in, you get 5 in the forge. So if we were to craft some forged iron, it takes, doesn't take, how to explain this, my words right. This iron, even though it looks like scrap iron, this clay, even though it looks like the lumps of clay you collect, it's not referring to those items. So this scrap iron isn't what this is referring to. So where it says needs 10, it isn't this. It's from here. Now these are actually separate items in the game. So if we just head into the trading menu a second, and I type in unit, you'll see we get a few new items that were never in the game before. These are specific to the forge. As you can see, we've got unit iron, unit brass, unit lead, glass, clay stones. So this is what's in the forge, this is what you're using. So because those items are not used for anything else in the game other than existing within this window in the forge, you can't get them out in any way, so there's no recipes that actually use them, other than things you have to use the forge for. So I was able to leave the crafting ingredient time alone. An interesting thing to point out, something that I did notice, is while I was doing this, in the update from 13.3 to 13.4, the Fun Pimps have halved the time of all of these to craft. So a forged iron previously would have taken 15 seconds to cook. Now it only takes 5. Well, that's wrong. Again, this time thing's buggy. It takes 7.5 seconds it should take to craft, based on the XML file. Yeah, taking 5 seconds. Don't get that. Yeah, so this comes from here. This isn't affected, so the forge remains working absolutely fine. Anything that comes out of the forge, like forged iron, yeah. Make a fire axe or something. You don't have to wait for it, it crafts instantaneously. Obviously, because this doesn't have a craft time, bits that go into making this have the craft time, so this is unaffected, which is great. So that's pretty much it for this mod. So that's pretty much it for this mod. Done my best to explain to you what I've done. As I said before, I'll leave a link in the description to where you can get the code. What I'll do is I'll leave my complete items XML and a complete recipes XML. So you just change out those XML files for yours, and it will add this mod and it'll work for you no problem. Doesn't have any of my mods attached to it. I know not all of you would use them, not all of you use every single one, you pick and choose. If you want to add additional mods as well as this craft timer thing, remember that you will, for every additional item you've added in, you will have to add the property name, crafting ingredient time, value string to every individual item that you've added in order to get the craft time to not default to 1 second. So it sets to 0. Hope I've explained this all okay. If anyone has any issues, doesn't understand, just drop me a comment and I'll do my best to explain. So yeah, that's my mod to get rid of crafting timers. I hope this is one that you'll use, you'll enjoy. I know a lot of people prefer the game without them, so hope this brings you, well, makes your Alpha 13 experience a bit more pleasurable. So other than that, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for listening to me ramble on for however long this has taken. Leave me a like, subscribe if you like mods and want to see more. I've got plenty of interesting things coming. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, guys.